So that was a very fun and unexpected thing.
Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go!
Hey everybody, it's George the Antique Nomad. I am in Payette, Idaho. I've never been here before. It's not far off of the freeway, but it's over the border north of the Boise metropolitan area, and so it's a place that you really don't go unless you intend. And I'm glad I intended today because there is more here than I expected. There's the Idaho Youth Ranch thrift store. There is Timeless Treasures thrift store. There's the Main Street Antique Mall. And there's this curious place where I spent $19.08 and it does not have a name. That's a first for me. So the no-name thrift store turned out to be the first one that I found things in, and I'm going to take a look at the rest.
My first stop is the Idaho Youth Ranch thrift store. This is a chain in Idaho, and they help disadvantaged children, runaways and homeless kids, and they help families in distress. They have a ranch where they send kids to work with horses as therapy. It's a pretty neat organization. I try to find something every time I'm in one of these stores. And we're going to look down this aisle. I see a bunch of Jeannette Hellenic glasses. These were late 60s. I tend to only buy the ice buckets and the cocktail shakers in this pattern, but there are collectors of it, especially if they like it with Wedgwood. Then there's some Wexford on this shelf, but look over here. This is something that's interesting. This is by Corel, but it doesn't say Corel on it when you look at the bottom, and I don't mean where the price tag is, but on the bottom of the handle, you're going to see that this was made by Corel for a Mana radar range, because by the 1970s, people were buying more microwave ovens than any other kind, so they needed cookware that could handle a microwave oven, and Corel made this with the house. Okay, we are back at the no-name thrift store. I bought a few things here earlier, but I decided to film, so I went out and recorded. So we're going to look again because I didn't take you in with me the first time. But there's a bunch of stuff in the window here I really like. I've always been a fan of the Franciscan ivy, but these two shelves here in particular, we've got the Sascha Brastoff First Factory. These were the Alaska line pieces made by Matthew Adams for him, and these were done for a trading post up in Juneau. They've also got hubcaps in the window. I've got a lot of hubcaps. I don't necessarily need more of those. And I see some jadeite, so yes, let's go back in and see if we can do some more shopping here, because I think this store has potential. They've got a bunch of comics here, and if you take a look at them, there's lots of westerns, but even though I like these and the graphics are good, I'm really looking for things that are maybe more counterculture, because this stuff that's Western is always priced pretty high in Idaho. They know what it is and it's where the customer is. Okay, here's something that I think I can make money on. It's only $3.50. It's very Johnny Quest in the graphics, and it's inside the Atom, and they used to have an atomic research plant in Paducah, Kentucky, near where I sell there. And there's a lot of this sort of thing out on the West Coast too. This was by GE. This one is Rip-Off Comics number 4. Now this is counterculture comics. These are for adults. They have the fabulous furry Freak Brothers in them. I just got a really neat collection of these, but I'll add this to it. It looks like a bunch of different train sets actually. This one is going to be a little bit later in time. But they do have the toys here. They've got stuff from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. The Shawnee cup holder here is a great guy, the little clown here. I know some people don't like clowns, but this guy has always sold for me, and that's a good price. And you can see on the bottom, it doesn't say Shawnee. You have to know that that A that tips a little bit differently than the U and the S makes it a Shawnee piece, but you can find it in the book. And then under here, this is a little Vernon Kilns coaster, and this is 80 cents. Am I reading that right? That's crazy, and it's The State of Oregon by Vernon Kilns. I'll take that for that price. All right, bottles, bottles, bottles. Lots of bottles. but nothing too unusual. Let's see what this 7-Up ad is. Fresh up familiar foods and party treats. Tuwaka on tap. Avon bottles galore. Of course, those were made by a very good glass company in New Jersey, but nobody collects them much unless they're specific ones. The Mountie screen print glass might do well. We are starting to see business coming from Canada again now that things have opened up a little bit more. Yes, the Mission in Carmel, California. These screen print glasses usually sell for $8 to $10 each if they're from the 50s and 60s, and I've been buying them a lot lately because I've noticed that a lot of people seem to like them again. Here we go into Timeless Treasures, and this is a thrift store, so again we're going to see vintage, we're going to see new stuff. It should be an interesting mix. The spittoon there looks older than it is. Those are actually 1970s and 80s era. Wheaties boxes are definitely collectible if you get one for your favorite team. And here's some very pretty Italian glass with the red decoration. Similar pieces were made in Bohemia as well. You have to be careful not to use Windex on that stuff. I am seeing a little bit of old stuff, a little bit more Corel, but nothing really terribly exciting in this particular thrift store. A little bit of cast iron. The big cooker with the feet is probably the best piece there, the Dutch oven down on the bottom. Although the interestingly shaped biscuit maker is also a good piece. And here's the Shawnee elephant. I have to say, so far for a thrift store, the prices are not all that thrifty, so this is priced full retail at $18. There's some Metlock's Green Rooster, a neat old slot machine, not super old, but old enough to have a look, and a very nice oak side-by-side. Now this part of the mall is a little more antique-ish. Dunkin' teardrops for $5, the handled relishes. That would have been a very good price in the days when people were collecting more of that crystal, because that applied handle often was broken. We're going to try another place here, Main Street Mall and Thrift Store. This one says that it's partly antique mall and partly discount and thrift, so we'll see what that means in reality, but I'm excited to see a place that maybe is a little heavier on antiques and vintage. Oh yeah, right away you can see they are when you come in. They've got some very pretty glass, an old Fenton art glass display from back when the independent stores could order those and have a rack full of Fenton. A lot of these pieces are Fenton with the various crests. I have been seeking stuff for the Fenton show, but I have a pretty good collection going with me at this point. That is an interesting studio piece, but no one signed it or taken credit for it. Don't know who that was. Let's see what else they have in here. It does look like it's divided into booths. There's a luster piece from the 30s with the sauce spoon, but $15 is not a bargain. This is a Viking Epic piece, and it's a neat piece, but $75 is full rate. On the other hand, this is not a bad price on this piece. This is a small company from the Bay Area, I believe, in California called LeBeau. And LeBeau was one of a number of people who got together and formed the Registered California companies. And that is that mark there. Registered California was a consortium of Treasure Craft, who made these canisters in the 70s, and a bunch of other California makers of things that were casual that the New York companies did not want coming to the gift show. So they rented a hotel across the street and had their own gift show in 1951 and took the market by storm, because the buyers loved the casual and whimsical as opposed to the very stuffy things that were being done by the East Coast companies. That led companies all across the country, including Royal Hager in Illinois, to start designing wild 1950s era shapes and patterns and glazes, and informal living really took over in terms of style at that point. So it was a pretty revolutionary thing for them to do, and I've always gotten a kick out of it. And by the way, this Hager set's well priced. I'm going to take it. They have this place pretty well displayed. This is an interesting little piece because it was made by an English company for Shreve in Boston, which was a rather high-end department store, and that was to look like Majolica. I like the Franciscan Coronado picture here. I always thought this was a very graceful shape. It came out about 1940 in gloss and pastel colors. The pastel holds up better. It's got the original Franciscan ware sticker on it that they did in the early days. That's a neat thing, and that's priced pretty reasonably. This is fused glass from the 1980s. This is another thing when people ask me what should I be looking for from the 80s. Fused glass really came on strong as a decorator trend. Kurt McVeigh is a good name. Here's a bunch of the Vernon in the gingham and tam o'shanter and organdy colors, these various plaids. They also did a blue and red plaid called Calico that's very attractive. Viking Epic, let's see what we have on this console bowl. Oh, that looks like it's inexpensive enough. Here's some neat pottery craft with the drip glazes, these canisters here. Robert Maxwell did not have anything to do with the design of the canisters, but the drip glaze was definitely one of his ideas. And here's another treasure craft set. This is a classic. The Bull and Matador was seen in so many homes around 1960. It came out in 1958, and this was a very popular decorating motif at the time. And you can see the price that they have on the set, which is reasonable for what it is. We used to see these a lot, but you don't see many now because the bull horns broke. This is a neat little piece. I think Cheerios put those out in the 50s. I've seen this yellow piece with the glaze before. I'm not sure who did that. Here's a 1970s little floral piece made out of the brass and wire to look like what Jouret was doing, but obviously not the quality and not as expensive and refined. Kind of a fun mirror here. I like the shape of it. This little piece is a double layered Viking piece from about 1966-67. They didn't do the double layer for long. This is well done for a Murano glass or Venetian glass bird. It is definitely Venetian. It's not Mexican. It's got the right base. The colors are good in this, and the eye is pretty well done. Very pretty lamps with that Italian glass base in the purple. This is old. This is hand painted, and it is going to date to about 1900, 1910, and it's got a good mark on the bottom. So we can tell that it is Austrian made rather than Czech, which would have been my first guess looking at it. This is cool. I think I've got to pick this one up. This is Broadmoor Pottery out of Colorado, and you do not see very much of this particular piece. When we look at the bottom, has the signature of P.H. Genter, who was the originator of Broadmoor Pottery. It started in Colorado Springs and moved to Denver for just its last 2 years, which I believe was 1938 to 39. So this is a hard piece, and at that price, it's a hard piece to find. I think I'll pick that one up. We have, as most stores do now, a lot of Corningware and Pyrex and Fire King. A little bit of green depression glass, and a big shelf full of Avon Cape Cod, made by the same company that made the bottles. Cookie jars, lots of cookie jars. We have the owl on the left here, very wise looking old owl. And it is DeForest of California. One of the last things that they made, they copied the brown glazes when they saw that those were becoming popular with Treasure Craft. Treasure Craft made the Noah's Ark here in the 1970s. You can see like those canisters that it has that bleached white appearance that they switched to after the brown went out of style. And this one's really cute, the little Japanese one with the googly eyes. And this is a Treasure Craft piece from the 80s, the cat with the rose. Wow, really vibrant poppy canisters from the 1970s. And this is by Lefton. And then we have a daisy ring. Those were popular in the 30s in the center of the table. You'd float little flowers in an oval shape around the middle of the table, usually around bowls and candlesticks. Another canister set. Canister sets seem to be a thing in Idaho. Let's see what this pretty vase here is. It looks like Nippon from the design and the Moriage beading from about 1910. Ah, yes, a sausage stuffer. I wish that my sausage press had the painting that this one does on the front. These old mercury glass industrial shades are interesting. At $75 each, they may find a buyer. Industrial's in. Jane Bennison was one of the more noted designers for Vernon Kilns, and this very studied console bowl from the 1930s is priced as $100 because it has her signature. They do pay a premium for Jane Bennison. The Vernon collectors know her. Then we have a whole lot of different bells here, the Pilgrim Cranberry and the Fenton. This is a really neat thing. So you plug it in, it's from about 1950. It's got this great plastic, fantastic gold speckled base, and then water comes shooting out of its mouth. I think that's one of the neatest fountains I've seen, and I've only had one and I never could get it to work. You can see what a big store this is. There's actually quite a lot here to see, and this town is full of thrift stores and antique stores and bargains, and I definitely will make this a stop on my way through here. Look at the kitties with the big eyes.
All right, so I had to do it. I'm going back to the store with no name, and I am spending $100 on all of the non-chip pieces of Mark Adams and Sascha Brastoff Alaskan line stuff that I saw in the window because I think it's really cool. I do have customers for that in the Northwest, and actually there are people online still collecting if you price it right, and there's some good shapes, and the condition on the pieces I'm getting is great. And look, it's Lester. Aw, hello buddy. How are you? Yes, we met earlier, didn't we? That looks like it must be your spot on the floor.
So the family who had all the Sascha Brastoff Alaska line stuff apparently were in the military, were stationed there in the 1950s before statehood, and then were stationed in Hawaii and ended up being there when statehood occurred. So they had this really cool outrigger for sale, and the Sascha Brastoff pieces are in the box wrapped below it. So I'm very happy I spent over $100 in a thrift store. All right, now to the Payette Bargain Mall.
Well, this place looks pretty big, and it looks like it's got old, new, and in between.
This is just down the street from the other stores, and they do have some antique and vintage in here, amongst other things. I see a nice erector set, and there is a neat little piece here. This is a Viking glass owl fairy lamp, and this store apparently did not get the memo about fairy lamps because that is a bargain price. I'm very excited to have found the little owl fairy lamp. I think that's going to be a big hit with somebody. Let's see what they have in the rest of the store here.
Norcrest Japanese coralline from the 50s, based on a Victorian way of decorating. Some pretty old floor model radios under these things. And a mangle. They almost all work.
I didn't bring my wallet with me.
Hey, Trey!
I may have enough change. Hold on.
Lots of little metal structures and buildings and things. They seem to sell well now.
Oh, look, the BC bowl. The big serving bowl. You had to pay extra to get that one back in about 1980. Vintage Fire King and Pyrex. Prices are not bad. They're not necessarily reseller price, but they're good enough. There's Jeanette Constellation in the yellow. That's pretty up there. I like that color. I seem to be noticing yellow a lot lately. Holly Hobby. Deadly Do-Right. Underdog. Character glasses. Dr. Pepper hands. Lots of fun and important stuff. I'm sure there's some deal in here with all the cards. People who know cards really know their subject. They look for graded, they look for slabbed, they look for condition, but it's more about scarcity, particularly misprints, and there's so much to know. You really have to just develop expertise in your area. It's getting to be that way with comic books and a lot of other things that are collectible. Ah, my favorite Northwest taco store, Taco Time, from about 1980. So this is the beginning of shopping my way back to the middle of the country and getting stuff together for shows there. So I guess I don't need a 62-year-old spare glass. This is cute, though. Is that $13 or $3? I think it's dollar sign, $3. And of course, if you're studying ballet, you should be tipping a Manhattan or a martini. So sure, let's get that. Now, I mainly have seen Peanuts. I have not seen Warner Brothers. These are from the 70s. They're by Aviva out of Japan. And for $5, yes, I will get that. Hello from Magic Mountain. This was one of these cool nerdy toys when baby boomers were kids. Look at the great 50s graphics and the design. And the whole purpose is to get people interested in science. This is a late 50s reaction to Sputnik. You see scientific-related toys start to become more of a thing in the marketplace at that point. And then here's the Fighting Knights playset. I had this when I was a little kid. Haven't seen one in years. Plastic castle and things you could fire off of cannon stands with rubber bands, and it was great fun. Very destructive, $50. Seems like a pretty decent price with the metal case. Copyright 1968, when Marx was making the transition from metal to plastic toys. This is true thrift store in here too. There's all sorts of things depending what you're after. For $125, this is actually a decent deal on this chair. These are made in Mexico and they're expensive. They're new, but this one's a little bit worn. Even appliances. And your favorite chair. Well, I found something decent in every single place I went in Payette pretty much, so that was a very fun and unexpected thing. Well, I spent a little under $200 in Payette, so I think I did all right. It was a good place to go shopping. I did some nice picking. I got some fun 60s glass. I got some things that are going to be interesting in terms of ephemera. I just had a good time. And as usual, while the thrifts were fun and I got some good things for thrift store prices, I spent the most money at the antique mall on the corner. Just the Leica camera box alone for $40 was worth the price of admission there. Oh yeah, that's right, admission was free. It's been good to have you with me. Check me out on the social media and links in the description below. Check out my website, theantiquenomad.com. We will see you soon somewhere in the really fun world of antiques and vintage. Bye for now.
Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below, click the bell to be notified when new videos upload, leave a comment below, and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at the Antique Nomad. Bye for now.